million viewers. Now that's a runaway smash.
Yeah.
But at the time, CBS, they had a lot of procedurals, and they were all doing really well with the ratings, so far ratings, which is amazing to think.
Yeah.
If we'd been on any other network, we probably would have ran 7 years. But anyway, what happened was, when they canceled us, in the final episode, Jake Green, Skeet Ulrich, he says the word nuts to a person they're battling in a rival town, and quoting the great quote from World War II, and so everybody took on the banner of this idea of nuts and started sending peanuts to CBS saying you're nuts to cancel Jericho or nuts about Jericho, and I think they ended up with over like 20 tons or something like that.
Yeah.
That finally I think they shipped them all. They shipped them to the troops to enjoy. But at the end of the day, we were shocked. We were so gratified because we might have had 8 million viewers, but we had some passionate fans who loved the show. It was very gratifying because until the Nuts campaign, we had no idea. And then we knew that we had 7 episodes, and I know based on many of the conversations I've had, I think we all knew that probably a long shot that we would get more than that. So it was the team tried to wrap it up in a good way that would give us the open end if we got the lucky extension, but would also be satisfying for the fans in case we didn't. And in this case, we didn't.
Gotcha. So then, I forget, how did it ended on a cliffhanger note, right?
Yeah, but it was a hopeful note. It was somewhat open-ended, like I said, to give room for a season 3 or 4 or a movie or whatever. There are comic books. I know there are graphic novels that have come out that continue the story, and so it gave us room to go. But we wanted to be satisfying. We didn't want it to end in the middle of a sentence.
Gotcha. So then, do you feel that the show would be even more relevant or catch fire more today with the kind of the almost constant fear that our dear leader is provoking North Korea into perhaps firing away at us?
Well, I think that in a lot of ways, Jericho was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Jericho was this gem right in between 2 great sci-fi shows. Lost, which I loved. I thought the show was brilliant, especially season 1, just unbelievable television. And The Walking Dead. And those were the 2 shows. And it's funny, I always equated Jericho a little bit more with The Walking Dead. Even though that's about zombies, it really is about the people. The people themselves, they're at least symbolically The Walking Dead. And it was about this community. And I don't know, I thought we were in between. So I think that Jericho, and it's been very gratifying. When I get people all the time that find it on Netflix, I think it's one of the most watched shows in Netflix history. They'll find it, if any of your viewers or any of your listeners right now are hearing Jericho and say, oh, let me just start with the pilot, and then it just seems very relevant, all the themes. So yeah, I think that there's always room for that story, but I do believe that when we came out in 2006, we were ahead of our time.
Gotcha. So with regards to, I want to get to Perks of Being a Wallflower now. That was just a sensation almost right off the bat, telling a story of basically a trio of high school kids that were, and their interactions, a girl, like a kind of a outsider kid, the girl he falls for, and her gay brother, if I recall. It's been a while since I read or saw it, but yeah. And so, that went to like 700,000 copies, like pretty quick, and then up to 2 million at one point. So, what do you think was what inspired it? What do you think was the strong connection, and how did you decide to take that unusual approach of it being like in the form of letters?
Well, when I wrote The Perks of Being a Wallflower, I didn't even know the term epistolary existed. To me, I chose letters because I wanted it to feel, I guess, a more intimate connection to the reader. I wanted Charlie, the young man who the story's about, to really, speak as directly to us as possible. and so that's why I chose it. In terms of like what it was, I think that Perks kind of like with the Wonder film, that it was very authentic. When I wrote it when I was 26, I finished it when I was 28, and it was published when I was 29. And I was so close. I was so close to high school at 26. And a lot of the things that I experienced in high school and college, that people that I loved very dearly had experienced some difficulties and challenges they had faced. And I wanted to celebrate that. And I wanted to talk about growing up in as real of a way as I knew. And I think what happened was it appealed to young people the way that, other books, whether it's The Catcher in the Rye or it's This Side of Paradise or A Separate Piece or The Outsiders, and since the publication of Perks Being a Wallflower, I think The Fault in Our Stars or 13 Reasons Why or Laurie Hall Sanderson's beautiful novel Speak, there are certain books that talk about issues in a way that do not preach, and they do not, they don't profess to have all the answers, but really ask the questions, I think, in a very real, authentic way. I'm very proud that The Perks Being a Wallflower was one of those books. I remember when it came out in 1999, young adult literature, there was a dearth. It really didn't exist at the time. I remember trying to get an agent. I couldn't even get an agent for the book. And they said, "Oh yeah, YA is dead." That was the quote. And anybody that's looked at what happened since 1999, they couldn't have been further from the truth. What was dead was young people's. They wanted real stories. They wanted real stories for them, and they weren't getting them in many other places. So I think that's what ultimately happened. What I have found, which has been very amazing to me since. Because I published this in January of 1999. That's when it first came out. That when my book came out, we're talking, this is like 19 years now, and the fact that I get letters pretty much every day from young people who were, the book was 5 years old when they were born. And these issues are as relevant today as they were then, as they will be many decades from now, and it's a shame that the kids still have a lot of these same challenges. In some cases, they have even more because of social media and other things that have changed their landscape. But yeah, I think the one thing that kids are very good at is knowing who's really telling the truth to them, and the people that look them in the eye and respect exactly where they are, and respect where they're going, what they're going through at eye level, and I'm certainly one of those people. I remember being a kid. I remember what the first crush actually felt like. I remember what those heartbreaks felt like. And as much as now I'm happily married to my beautiful wife Liz, and we have 2 kids, and my life is completely unrecognizable to my younger self, I do remember what it was like, and I try to convey that sense of authenticity and that sense of respect in everything that I do.
So what about, what do you have to say about the fact that the book has gotten resistance in some quarters as a banned book in high schools and things like that? I mean, I think it's a very positive tale that is done tastefully, but why has there been such a freak out sometimes?
I think generally speaking, there's this one section in particular where Charlie is describing, what you would call a date rape at a party, something that he heard about and something that he witnessed. And sadly, I think that, I was writing about that because it's a very real issue that really all kids face, but especially young women. And I was trying to shed a little light on it and let young girls know that they weren't alone, certainly ones that have been through that. And unfortunately, I think there was this one organization that seemed to think that it was written to be titillating, which is very disturbing to me, I have to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know where they got that from, and it just took on its own fire. The one thing that the book does is it talks about real issues, whether it's drug use or homosexuality or premarital sex and a slew of others. And it does it in a way that is not trying to cast judgment on any behavior. It's trying to show it more like the way that a truly impartial reporter would show. These are things that exist. This is how they are bad. This is how they are good. This is how they affect children. and let's just look at them and let's have a really frank discussion about how we can be there for our kids. That's what I'm trying to do. I was doing it, as you said, in a very positive light. Certain people just didn't see it that way, but that's fine. Look, we're Americans. They're entitled to their opinion. I think that banning books is a terrible thing personally because all it does is create another silence. If I publish my book in part to help end silences for people, and somebody wants to get rid of that book, to me that just encourages more silence, which encourages more ignorance, or encourages more isolation for kids that really need help. For me, and I could show you so many letters it would make your head spin, for young people over the years who have written to me saying, I was going to commit suicide. I read your book. I decided to live. And
wow.
And when you get one letter like that, you think, wow. You get two. And once you start to get more than a handful, you realize that anybody that tries to ban, that's why I'm so passionate about this particular issue, is I don't know where the next kid's coming from. I don't know where the next kid is living. All I know is I want that young person to get a positive story that they can relate to, that makes them not feel alone, so they know that this difficult time of life is fleeting. It will pass. And I want them to live and have a great life and have great kids and find love and find fulfillment to their dreams. I want them to find their dreams. And so that's why sometimes, I think that some of the people that want to ban books, I think they actually have good intentions. They want to protect kids. But sadly, ultimately, I feel that they do the opposite. And just as I would passionately argue that let's say a parent for moralistic reasons or religious reasons would not want their child to read my book, if it was an elective in a school, I'd say, well, God bless you. Absolutely. If you don't want your child to read it, then by all means, it's your child. And I respect that. And if the school forced you to read it, I think that would be wrong. I think that would be wrong morally. However, make the decision for your own child. Please do not make the decision for your neighbor's children. Because that's when you I think, overreach. I say that with respect. And please, I know, you never know if your neighbor's child is the next one that really needs this book. So
yeah.
That's how I feel about censorship.
Well, here's my last question, because I know you got to go and I've got to wrap up as well. But wanted to ask, you mentioned that you, or at least beforehand, we mentioned that you're Catholic. And just wondering, does that have any impact in how you conduct your career? And my other part of the question is, having reached such success with Perks and Wonder, dealing with young people, do you have any, where do you want to go with the rest of your career? Because you have done so many different things. Do you have any, I think you have the potential to be the John Hughes heir, but I don't know if that's of interest or what.
I think I really deep down don't want to be the next anything. I think I really just want to be the one and only me. And I don't say that in any kind of an egotistical way. I say that because, for me, I have so many different interests, and I always have as a fan. I love literature. I love movies and television. And I could tell you how much I love The Simpsons every bit as much as I love Breaking Bad. Or I'm in my office and I keep posters on my wall to remind me of when I was that teenager and I dreamt. And I'm looking at Back to the Future, Dead Poet Society, and John Carpenter's Halloween. You know what I mean? That is how varied my interests are. And so moving forward, what I found over the last few years, making The Perks of Being a Wallflower, writing the screenplay for Beauty and the Beast, and now co-writing and then directing Wonder, is I can't wait to do the next thing. And I love doing things for families. I love making things for families. And so I'm rewriting a screenplay for Disney and my producers, David and Todd, of Prince Charming. And I'm really excited about Prince Charming. And I have my second novel. It's my first novel in 20 years.
Wow.
And it will be published in 2019. And I am so excited to bring this particular story to people. It has all the heart of The Perks of Being a Wallflower and Wonder and other things that I've done, but it is actually